This podcast is rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Some material may not be suitable for children. Mission 250.
Welcome to Mission 250 Filmcast. We're doing Star Wars again. We're doing the trivia episode for Empire Strikes Back. If you didn't listen to last week's, you probably should start there. But if you just want trivia, you'll miss, I don't know, maybe 25% because we kind of got into it as we went through the review portion of this.
Yeah.
But yeah. So this movie's awesome.
So how much trivia do we have?
Review.
How many hours are we talking?
Oh,
here?
we got a decent
Let's
amount.
break it down.
Yeah.
Between me and John.
There's
So
so much
I
of
listened. Let's give what we did first, John. I listened to 2 commentary tracks and watched a bunch of special features. And John,
Okay. I read a book. I read half a book.
Half a book.
I read half of The Making of Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back by J.W. Rinsler. Go get this. It's good. So yeah, I was mentioning on the show before, like if you got a Kindle or a Kindle app, it's like $15. And there's video and artwork in there. It's really cool.
And they have hardcovers too. And John convinced me to buy the one for the next one, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm gonna try to read that one too, because
so I'll start halfway through, John, just so we can cover the whole thing. Is that what we're doing?
Kind of. Well, I'm thinking what I can do is start. Let me give you what I got, because it's all about a lot of the trivia I have is like before Empire was made.
No, I'm talking about for Return of the Jedi. Should I start halfway through?
Shit. Maybe you should.
Maybe I should. I don't have any problem doing that.
Or I can start halfway. You know what? I wouldn't mind that at all. Let's divide it up.
Let's figure it out. We'll flip a coin, and whoever wins gets to pick which half.
Yeah, and if one of us, if you get through it, then you can go start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because at least the way he does this, he does it in sequence. So you're just like hearing what's happening, as it goes on. So that's a good idea, man. Because I don't know if I'll have time to go 100%. So,
yeah. Like 400 pages.
Books.
Yeah.
What is this? Paper product?
I'm out. Yeah, I don't have to do it. Cool.
Do I put this in the bathroom?
Is this table reading? What is this?
So what I was gonna say is, since I got through the first half, and that talks more about like kind of what happened right after Star Wars and as they got to filming, and then maybe so I might just lay that out there, and then you can like pick up, or if you have trivia that fits in with that, then you can pepper that in.
Sounds good to me.
And then we can transfer over to you.
Yeah.
So. And the influence of this film is, of course, just amazing. But Ridley Scott wrote the foreword, a very brief one, to the Empire Strikes Back book. And he was saying that he was about to go like make a movie on Tristan and Isolde, kind of a more of a mythological film. But after seeing Star Wars, he's like, now I want to do sci-fi. So, and then The Duelist got some attention at Cannes, and he talked to this producer who was involved in this project called Alien. And so he decided to go do
this little
that.
project called Alien.
Yep.
A little project.
We have Star Wars to thank for Alien.
And we have
starters,
2001
right?
Space Odyssey to thank for Star Wars and Alien.
Yeah, that's fair. So
Wow.
again, that was pretty amazing. And again, Rinsler just talks about this film as being like, he described it as kind of the film noir of the saga, which I kind of really like too, because it's sort of the darker, the good guys don't win. You sort of like, you just don't have this like happy sort of like tale. I thought that was sort of interesting. But again, they were like dealing with the success of Star Wars, and again, Lucas turns around, he finances this. He like fronted the bill. Fox was only going to get money for distribution, so that was like a big deal at the time. That was sort of unheard of. And when you see what like Fox was getting before for like distribution and everything, before, like this was a Chicago Times Tribune article that was quoted in the book that's saying that for every $4 tickets for Star Wars, Fox got $2.05 for financing and $1.20 for distribution, and LucasArts got 17 cents.
Wow.
That was Star Wars. They had a 50-50 licensing split just because Fox that was just bullshit anyway, and they didn't care, right?
The amount of money, isn't it crazy, guys? The amount of money they do for nothing.
Right.
It's just what you have to do. It's what you have to pay.
And Fox did not believe in Star Wars at all. They were trying to get rid of the film. 6 months before the release, they tried to sell Star Wars to a group of German tax shelter specialists, and that didn't work. So then 23 days before the opening of Star Wars, they tried to sell the film as part of a package film deal to Bel Air Associates for $12 million. Pay us $12 million now, we'll give you Star Wars. They were trying to offload it. They had no faith in this film.
Did they have the full film at this point?
Yeah. Well, I don't know
with
if
the
they'd seen
soundtrack
it.
and everything?
Yeah, well, again, I don't know. Some of the things I thought. So one thing that they did say about Star Wars was that it finished so close to its release date that the studio didn't even have time to mess with it. So they may not have gotten a good idea of what it was like until right up to its release at that point too. So that might have been part of it as well.
They're blaming marketing. I mean, fuck.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would. I'd blame them all
but
day.
so now it's like they took merchandising. They built their own merchandising department, which they called Black Falcon, and nobody had done this, and Fox hadn't done it. So Lucas built their own merchandising department, and then made deals with Kenner to make the toys. But that was not even happening yet. Wow. It come Christmas, like they were selling empty boxes. Basically, with like you buy these empty action figure boxes, and when the action figures are made, we'll then mail them to you.
What?
Because the toys just were not there. They didn't have them ready.
So wait
even,
for the toys. What are you buying boxes for?
And then once the merchandising kicked in, as almost while Empire got started, I mean, then Lucas had like a warehouse full of all the different toys, and they talk about all the cool things that were made. Like Lucas came up with the idea of an R2-D2 cookie jar, but there was like Star Wars everywhere, and that was kind of a joke about Star Wars, right? But it was like it was a new thing to just sort of apply merchandising everywhere, and they had a couple of rules, like they weren't going to be involved in any kind of pills and no kind of alcohol. And that was about it. Otherwise,
the two things I definitely would have bought
is just speed.
Yeah.
It gives you anxiety.
Like vitamins.
Right. Just speed. Yeah. It's Zoloft and methamphetamine all in one.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You get happy and you get fucked up, and then you just get stressed because it's all going to wear off eventually.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have some uppers and call them the Force.
Exactly.
So Lucas then would get all the licensing rights. It used to be a 50-50 split, but with Empire, now actually Lucas is in this great bargaining position all of a sudden because he had the money. He didn't need Fox. He had the rights to the sequel, but he still was going to allow Fox to distribute it, but that's it. So
he was going to allow it because he needed it.
Yeah, well, he needed it. Right. Somebody had to distribute it, film, right?
Yeah.
That's something that he couldn't do. So he got the remaining licensing, and then again he took whatever money he had and he used it as collateral to get loans for the millions that Empire was going to need.
Did you see what the deal was with Fox? The percentages in that deal?
I didn't know there were percentages there.
Yeah.
I thought, what were the percentages?
Lucasfilm 80% and Fox 20%.
So
that's way better than that 17 cents they were getting, which is what, like a percent?
Oh, I
of
see
the profits. So Lucasfilm was going to get 80% of all the profits directly.
That's
to George
great.
Lucas.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
So
it's an insane deal.
Right. Yeah. But the other thing that was going on is when Star Wars ended, Industrial Light and Magic kind of ended. Like their visual effects people just were gone. So because they were all there just to do Star Wars, they'd built things to do Star Wars, and then Star Wars was over. So all these people drifted off, and they all went, like a good chunk of their visual effects people went to work on this project at Universal called Galactica.
Oh, God.
Which turned out to be Battlestar Galactica, which it turned out Fox did some lawsuits around that, but I don't know how those resolved or not. But like Ralph McQuarrie, a lot of these people that were really good concept artists and visual artists went over and started working for Universal because they had this science fiction project that was underway for TV. So that was kind of interesting. I mean, it just like that was going on. So then they had to figure out how to get people back and sort of persuade them and sort of like get the whole band back together, even though they were just already on to the next movie. So
there was George Lucas was talking about one guy that he had on A New Hope that he didn't like, but he was very popular amongst the people. The special effects guy. So he used this as an excuse not to hire him back. So it was kind of like he wanted to fire him the whole time during A New Hope, but he went to this Galactica project, and then he was one of the people that he purposely didn't hire back to the crew.
Right, he turned out to be. He was kind of the head of Effigy, which was this other kind of like group that ended up doing the Galactica work. I forget what his name was. He was interesting. I wonder what their relationship was like, because it's John Dykstra. That was his name. He actually has the Dykstra. There's a Dykstra camera named after him that actually is what does the crawl.
The crawl. What is that?
The opening crawl.
Oh, the opening crawl.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Oh, I see.
I think
cool. So that guy created that shot, and Lucas didn't like him.
I think so.
Come on.
That was right. But anyway.
Can't be that nice of a guy if he doesn't like that guy.
Well, I just think it was maybe
I see it.
They had a difference of opinion. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so George didn't want to direct anymore either. So here he is like, what's he going to do?
So what I heard, John, not to... You read a book. Books are usually better than commentary.
I'll read his quote.
What George said, at the very least, was that he knew he couldn't direct because he was taking on the production, that portion on himself, which he didn't do for the first one, and he knew it was going to take up all of his time. So he knew he wouldn't be able to create a company, fund the company, be a producer, and also direct at the same time.
Right,
He knew that wasn't possible.
Right. And well, he was saying just too that like, making the movie had been a 4-year horrific seat of the pants experience, one that Lucas never wanted to live through again. That was like a quote from the book. Lucas stated, publicly several times that he was retiring from the director's chair. He said, you end up not being happy anymore and working yourself to death. And then also was like Lucas just talked about, describing that, again, like I was saying earlier, he said like the corporate environment in Hollywood isn't any different than the corporate environment in the energy business. It's all about making money. It's all about making deals, and it's all about screwing this person or that person. It doesn't have anything to do with making movies. So TC is going to bang his head against the. You're nodding so vigorously over there, right?
If you're at the producer level,
I'm like, you just can't even. No, if you're at anything, it's so
there are people
exactly
making art.
That.
there are people trying to make art.
I know.
And there's someone who's about to get that movie bought that's doing exactly what John just said.
Yes, absolutely.
I know.
That's part of it. That's definitely part of it.
It's awful.
Right.
It's miserable.
And so he like goes on. He's like, in Star Wars, I tried to do everything myself, and it almost killed me, and I was so miserable. So I had a choice. I figured if I was ever going to be creative on a large scale, I would have to cope with this problem. And one way to do that is to remove myself further and really indirectly control it. So it's weird because he's like, he struggles with this because he wants to do everything and control everything, and that drives him nuts. It's just not possible. So then he's like,
too big
okay,
of a project. Like nobody can do that.
It's a difference between leaders and not leaders, because what he did is actually really like selfless, because he couldn't. Because he knows we all know he wants to be there, but he knows
desperately wants to get it done.
Yeah,
He still
the
desperately
the data proves to him that he can't do it that way. So he's got to. It's
what
fucking
he did,
something else.
The premiere was in
Very
England,
cool.
and this director Irvin Kershner was going, and he's like, George, where can I meet you for it? And he's like, I'm not going. He's like, what are you talking about? And George Lucas was like, dude, it's your movie. If I was there, people would look at me maybe more than you because they know my name. But like, this is your movie. This is your day. I'm not going to go.
Wow. See?
So points to Lucas again.
What? No kidding, right? He shows himself to be a good guy and a very thoughtful guy, at least in this stage where he's at. It's pretty impressive, right?
It is. It's really, really confusing.
Yeah.
He's a nerd. He loves his craft. He couldn't care less about the money or the fame or the thing or that. Doesn't give a shit. Never did.
Yeah.
It's for him. It's like, why are you guys even holding importance to that stuff?
It's just
for him, it confuses him. I'm sure.
I know. It's just it's beating this dead horse to death again. But what it makes it so I just wish he was like that now, because then I could just really it'd be great to just love the guy now.
No, then he lived in L.A. for too long, and I'm telling you, don't fucking ruin the best of you.
No, John, I honestly think, I mean, he was like that back then, but the technology didn't exist for him to do the things that he wanted to do. As soon as the technology existed with CG, then he started doing what he's always wanted to do. He's always wanted to do
Which is like control everything.
Yeah, he's adding shit back in that he wanted to be there. That's what he's doing. And he knows that even still, you couldn't do the shots that he's adding in with CG in a realistic sense. Like, you couldn't build that set. It's like an entire fucking city. You have to use CG.
Right. But now you could do it, and maybe he could have a whole lot more control over it and just have somebody else do it without having to like work with so many people and iterate on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Essentially, he wasn't not able to handle the fact that he couldn't do what he wanted to do. And so his reaction was to freeze. And that is shown by everybody else as being nice and being like, no, you should do this. He's like, I don't give a fuck. My life's over until I get to this part and do this. Like, you guys have your fucking fame, have your fucking bullshit. I don't give a shit about the money. All I care about is I want to make doing this and that scene and this scene. And he's just been waiting until he could be a dick. Because everyone that's going to be successful is going to be a dick. That's just how it goes.
Well, I don't. Again, he's always, and I don't know how he is now, but certainly he's always described as being kind, thoughtful, generous to the people that he works with. So
that's awesome.
I mean,
that's more than most. Most people they work with, they go, "That guy wanted to fuck me. That guy fucking screwed me over. That guy wanted to fuck me over. That guy wanted to screw me over." I mean, it's like, So you're right. That's pretty amazing that you still have that track record after all these years.
Yeah.
Even if you're being obnoxious as fuck, changing shit that shouldn't be changed.
And then Mark Hamill was dealing with his newfound stardom. And in 77, he almost was killed because he rolled his BMW.
Did you notice the facial difference, TC? That was a question I wanted to ask.
Oh, he had a difference in his face?
Yeah.
Well, they had to operate on him from like 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. They took cartilage from his ear and rebuilt his nose. I mean, he was
So to me, the thing that looks different the most is his upper lip. But that might just be his nose. But his upper lip looks much bigger than it used to. but he didn't break any of his teeth in the accident somehow. He just like smashed his nose.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it's like, fractured his nose and cheekbone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough.
But
I did not notice that at all.
And he worked out a lot. He for 4 months.
So what, he went
did
from
training.
looking like Luke Skywalker to looking like Mickey Rooney in like a day or what? Like what?
I
didn't notice that at all. How did I not notice that?
Yeah. I think it's so what there's rumors too about how the what's the name of that creature? Abominable snowman. There's a name for it.
I forget what it is, but snow creature.
Bigfoot
Snow creature. That they wrote that in there to explain away his scars and stuff on his face.
Oh,
that's not
really
true.
That seems deep forward thinking.
It is, but it's not.
In some of the scripting sessions, though, Lucas had talked about like that Luke could have been in any number of battles. Like we're seeing them all being more seasoned at this point in the
that's
film.
True.
So
you could actually just say he was in a battle and got hit.
Yeah, right.
But the thing is, that rumor got started.
That?
I'm pretty sure because Carrie Fisher's on both of these commentary tracks, and she spouts nonsense that contradicts the people that I trust way more than her.
Right. I know. She's really entertaining.
Yeah, no shit.
But she freely admits,
dude.
she was on hallucinogens and downers the whole time. I mean, so she was.
I bet Quaaludes, right?
She was taking drugs.
That was Quaaludes time.
Yeah. She was at her own admission. She was on drugs the whole time.
She at the very least, I think there's a lot of conflicting information on the internet about certain points in this movie, and listening to the two commentary tracks, I don't know if this is where it started, but they're all her fault.
Yeah.
You have like the director and the writer and the special effects guy saying one thing, and then Carrie Fisher being like, that's not actually true. You got me and Han Solo writing scripts in the background. I'm just like, I don't trust you. I'm sorry. You're funny, but you're a little bit crazy right now.
Right.
And I'm sure you guys were writing scripts in the background. And you know what they were doing with them after that? They would toss them in the trash and burning them.
Right.
They let you think you were important, but as soon as you left the room, they were like, get rid of these fucking
It's also weird listening to her talk about Han Solo, because these were all recorded a while ago before her affair, whatever, came out with him, because that was like kind of recent. And she just she talks about him, and kind of you can tell that there was something there, but she's trying to hide it, and you can hear it. I'm like,
they loved each other. They loved each other.
Well, they screwed each other. They
call that gig romance. Yep. Been there, done that. Yep.
Harrison Ford with his 2 kids and 18-year-old girl.
A gig boyfriend, girlfriend, gig girlfriend, gig wife.
Come on, what does that mean?
It means like you go on a gig, right? You have a gig like an acting role, or you go on a month-long
tour.
And you meet someone there, and it's gig relationships. It stays on the gig, and you go back to your regular life.
It's tradition as old as time, Denny.
It's not. It's
about gig sex. Come on.
You have the doc wife.
No, what it is actually
it's really a custom. It's
John. What I found later, though, that's interesting is the idea that like
you go down there when you're
fish wife.
There is a certain amount of time that goes by where like you start to lose your life in your head, right? Like if you do 30 to 60 days of work with somebody and you're no longer around the other people, like your whole world changes. Like everything changes because all you're doing is that every day.
Especially if you're the kind of person that moves to Hollywood to become an actor, where that's the kind of...
or like a guy like me that did sound, right? Like you end up on these things where you meet a whole new core group of people that are in your life day in and day out, and you have little moments with them that are fleeting, but they're real as much as anything else. I could totally see it. You don't forget those things either, though. That's the craziest part, because like what you imagine with people, like you have these long-standing relationships and you build more and more as you go, and it's like, I've known that guy for 20 fucking years. We went tuna fishing on fucking Mondays and we're there on Sunday, right? That's the whole thing. But like, there's a difference with like, no, I have the same respect for this other person that I've only known for 60 days. It's been an intense 60 days where we've been through ups, downs, everything. And I can imagine that it's the same for them, right? Like they get into these moments where it's so intense.
I would say for Harrison, because at least he was probably
they're
old
lost
enough
in
where
those moments.
He can read that. But she was fucking 18 years old.
Well, but you don't, dude. I don't know if you're into this stuff at 18-year-olds back when she was. Then you're already aware of a lot of it, because there's no way you just randomly end up that way then. Yeah. And like that's the lifestyle that these people lead out here, and it's a thing. I've been in the moments, but at the same time, fucking hell, man, I would trust the person that's not in the creative side any day of the week.
Yeah.
If the creative person saying,
for
We're
most of
out
these
there
things.
doing scripts and this and that. Like, no, you're not. You're out there frolicking around like a bunch of nuts and you're crazy. And thank God for you. But like, go back to your trailer. You know what I mean? Like,
We should never listen to these people when they're not playing a character. Come on, can we all agree on that?
Right.
Please.
Yeah, right. So I would say that you are absolutely in the right to trust your gut on that one.
We'll get to. I'll
yeah.
give both sides of the story, but then I'll tell you who said what. And, you know.
Okay. All right. Cool.
But John,
So as they kept moving forward, then they brought in Lee Brackett to do the writing. So that was the writer they brought in earlier, and part of the book have this great sort of these notes that were from a script writing session where Lucas just talks. Basically, what we have are Lucas's words about like what he's thinking, and it was sort of clearly that yes, he wanted to be multi-part. He knew that he wanted to be a part after this, if not two. But he clearly didn't necessarily know the character's origin stories. Like the idea was thrown around that Luke would have a sister, that their father had taken them to opposite sides of the galaxy to keep them safe, that Luke's sister was also undergoing Jedi training or doing like a similar pattern to Luke's. Sorry, John,
not to interrupt
Wait,
you.
so
This
they
is
have multiple
confusing, though.
places built with Darth Vader walking through the thing? That like go
he's
back to Yoda's thing,
right
like,
now, they don't have
What?
the story written.
Sister
Well,
was
he
being
did,
trained
though. That's
too?
what I'm confused about.
No.
No, so for this,
This is George
Yes,
Lucas
I know.
talking to. He's telling her what he thinks the background is, and he's spitballing.
so I think it sounds like this is
I
just story
see, I
details,
see.
right? This is
No.
like trying. No, so John, if you remember from the last episode, George also said that he wrote an entire script and it was 200 pages, and to make a movie out of it, he had to make a movie out of the first third of the script.
Right.
And the Death Star
Right.
was at the very end of that 200-page script, and he had to bring it back to the first
He
third.
rewrote, but
just
the
to
thing
have-
is, so
he had
you're saying
a
these are
script of
details.
the entire thing.
These are large chunks,
Huh.
though. No, the
Huh.
Empire itself.
Oh, this
What
is
happens in
interesting.
Empire?
I like
It's
this.
so unknown. Like Yoda's made up. The
Right.
oh, we're gonna
And
have a
Yoda
spell.
was supposed to be Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Pretty much
so that part
the
was there.
Right. Pretty much the entirety, and certainly
What?
he like picks and chooses. But pretty
So,
much the entirety.
TC, the reason they killed off. So this is one script, and the reason they
It's
killed
so
off Obi-Wan
interesting.
Kenobi.
It's so now I see why everyone gets so involved in this. I'm
So
like,
in the
I'm
whole
like,
script,
I'm like,
in
holy
the
shit, no
three-part script that was initially written before A New Hope was made,
Uh-huh.
Obi-Wan
Okay.
Kenobi survived the first part, but the reason they
Yep.
killed him off was because they had to make it into 3 movies because the 200-page script is too long. And towards the
no
end of the script,
shit.
during The New Hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi had nothing to do. So they
Right.
thought, well, we'll have an exciting thing, we'll kill him off, and that way
Wow.
it won't be confusing to people watching the movie being like, where did he go?
Right.
Wow.
But they
Because he was
always
supposed
thought,
to just be
yeah.
alive and continue on to the next part. But for one movie, that doesn't make any sense.
But it was also thrown around that he
Shit.
could come back. And there's like a sort of spirit world thing, not even more so than what's done in Empire, in that he could actually he's doing some things in the spirit world, and that especially in the third one, he might even come back and do more stuff.
Mhm.
And they even
see.
offered Ben
Wow.
or Alec rather the to come back, and he had some kind of eye condition at the time that his doctors were telling him you can't go under bright lights or you'll lose your left eye. So he basically or you'd lose sight in your left eye. So he said he really at least in the book he was quoted as saying he really wanted to go back and do more, but he said he couldn't. And then so that leaves this more of a vacant. It's like, well, then there's this idea of this sort of there's somebody else needs to be that trainer. So they need that's going to be clearly a central role. But they had no idea. I mean, it's really thrown together. It's like Lucas is just sitting there talking. He's like, okay, we need a name for this critter. Let's make him small. So he's about 28 inches high. Maybe he's slightly frog-like, slick skin, wide mouth, no nose, bubble
Weird.
size. They move around. He squats. We could possibly have Jim Henson of the Muppets work with us. I mean, you hear him just talking. It's just kind
just
of
thinking.
amazing.
He's just thinking
Right.
about what
Right.
it could be. Like,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. That's great. That's why everyone shuts the
right.
fuck up when the creatives make a decision. you
Right,
know?
but he was just saying, he's like, well,
But the thing is, like, that idea isn't inherently good. The reason it's good is because he got the people to work on it, make it look good,
Right,
and
but
make it a
the
good
only
Muppet, and-
important
Yeah.
part is what John just touched on is the fact that that's all it is. For him, that's just his brain. His brain is just going.
right.
yeah.
It's
He would
amazing.
do that, and then he would
It's
have
amazing.
the illustrators would be like, all right, do like, and then he would say this, and they were even talking about this like Yoda, like he'd go to Macquarie, whoever, and be like, hey, just give me, I'm not going to tell you what to do, just do like 100 sketches. And they do 100 sketches, he would take them home, pick 2, and then say, all right, take these and do 100 more. Sort of, just like, these are the
And
directions
it's
we
amazing
want
that
you to
like
go.
for the illustrators that they're like, no problem.
They're like, you're going to
Yeah.
pay me?
See you in the morning.
Guaranteed.
Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
this is great.
like,
I love
to
this
me,
job.
that sounds amazing as like
Yeah.
on a number that's so high. But I
Yeah.
feel like for an illustrator, they're just like,
Right.
yeah, I call that Tuesday, Skip. I'll see you in the morning, bud. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's fucking grab coffee. That's
Right, so
amazing.
then
It's so
they got
awesome.
this- they
It's
got
the
the
best
script
parts
back.
of the Hollywood.
Oh, I know. No, it's the
Bullshit.
amount of creativity and just work so they got the script back from Brackett. They hated it. And so George was
Did
like,
they say why they hate it? Like, what was it like? Did they talk about that?
Yeah, just like they just didn't think she captured the characters very well. Like they actually have some details in the book and like show the script, and George was like writing no on the side of it. Just like he's just feeling like that Lee wasn't understanding the characters. And
that's funny. They talked about George, how he wasn't able to describe, like as a director too, he couldn't tell you what to do, but he could tell you what, like if something was wrong.
What
that's
not
like
to
what
do.
he could always do.
And that's the worst. That's the worst because it's not constructive at all for anything.
He's good at knowing what works, if that's worth it.
He is.
But he doesn't know how to describe it. So therefore, I'm not so sure he knows what's up or down.
Part of why he's having a hard time, he has a hard time doing it. But so
he sees something that someone else created, he goes, perfect. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
So then he takes like 3 weeks and he rewrites it all. George does himself. He just comes in and just says to also the illustrators of, hey, we're going to have a snow battle, so do some storyboards. And they would just do some storyboards, and then he would go and try to put them into the script that he was trying to write day by day. So he was going back and reconstructing it before they brought in the next writer. There are all these things. He's like, well, I was going to originally show Luke as powerful and tempted by the dark side. He was going to have this massacre scene where he massacres a bunch of stormtroopers and show that how powerful Luke had gotten and that he could like easily be tempted in the dark side. And he's like, well, he's what he quotes here. He's like, I was homing in on how angry he gets and how much do I make him look like he's turning to the dark side, but I decided to move him closer to the dark side in the next film, not in this one. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in Return of the Jedi. But and meanwhile, Lucas was helping his buddy Coppola edit some film called Apocalypse Now at this time.
Wow.
He helped edit that movie?
Feels like, smells like victory.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, dude.
No, meanwhile, and also there was the sequel to American Graffiti in the works, and the Radioland Murders.
To American Graffiti?
Yeah, called More American Graffiti, which tanked. But,
did he actively work on Raiders of the Lost Ark at all?
Yeah, I think so. Well, he helped with the idea for sure. I don't know how much work. We'll get to that when we get to that movie, but
that's like a busy freaking year for this dude.
No, this guy, it's pretty amazing. I mean, he went and he built this empire, not just financing the film, but like building the places where the film was made, soundstage, film stage. It's crazy. And he wasn't, I mean, damn, who does this? And he's quick to not take the credit in these interviews in the books. He's like saying, that these other people are brilliant and he's lucky to have them, and that, he's quick to give other people credit too. So here's a bit of trivia. You guys want to guess how much was James Earl Jones paid to do his Darth Vader voice in Empire Strikes Back?
It's either going to be really high or really low. I'm gonna go low. I'm gonna guess like $100,000.
Okay.
My guess is based on him having like a contractual obligation to having a low.
I'll give you a hint.
Something.
It was double what he got paid for Star Wars.
$200,000.
Oh, so there you go.
He got paid $15,000.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So he got a Pontiac Grand Prix, huh?
Right. It does say some small percent of the gross, so I don't know.
That's got to be right.
That can be huge. Yeah. But he only got half of that for Star Wars.
Yeah. So these things are tough because you can't take anything these people do with cash related as something that matters. Period.
Alec Guinness got paid fully with like a percentage of a percent of the
the residuals are where they all make their money.
Dollars off of it.
You make Can you imagine if you had a residual for something, you just make money in perpetuity?
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
It'd be amazing.
So part of what they did too, they like designed everything, but then they would contract out the building of some of the models. And because so much was going to go on inside the Falcon, they had to build a pretty much full scale model of the Falcon. They did this in Wales. It like weighed 23 tons. And
I read that they did that for this movie and not for the next one, which is if you already built it, why don't you just use it again?
No, I thought they did. I don't know what happened to it. Well, I thought they were building it so they could reuse it. They built it so it could be, because the Falcon they'd built for Star Wars fell apart. Like it was unusual because it was. Yeah, this one they built so that they could store it, but I don't know what happened to it.
We'll get to it. It's, from what I read on this one and what I heard, they didn't use it for Return of the Jedi, and I don't know why they wouldn't have done that.
So it's like a museum. It's a museum piece.
But I might have misinterpreted that. We'll get to it next week.
Yeah.
Oh, this is pretty cool. I mean, there's so much information. It's just so much stuff, guys.
This is why I was happy to have this one book, because I just didn't want to troll everywhere. But this book is everything so well collected. And I'm skipping over a lot, but so then they're getting there, and they're about to do the filming, and they'd already done some stuff with Hoth, or is this before they do the Hoth stuff? No. Okay. So before that, they're about to start shooting. They're getting ready to, and that's when the stage fire happens, it's called Elstree. So Elstre. That's Elstree Stages. Kubrick was doing The Shining there. One of his sets burned down, and that was like one of the interior. I think it was the interior scene of the inn. And so that like screwed them, because then Kubrick was still going to need more of these stages, and that like puts them back even further in terms of the number of stages that they could use. And Lucas is quoted as saying, and which is kind of funny, it sort of says something snarky about Kubrick here. He's like, Lucas says, "We knew the day it happened that it was going to screw up our schedule. It was going to screw up everything. We also knew that Stanley would use that as a way of further delaying things so he could think about his film." Stanley's going to he's going to just think about his film. I don't know, just the way he put that. But man, so they did a lot of their first shooting was in Norway, and man, it sounded like it was insane in terms of the cold. They had avalanches. Kershner is in this one point in the book, he describes it. He says the eyepieces would cloud over, the cameraman would look through it, and then about a third through the take, it would become white, and he couldn't see anything, couldn't tell whether it was in focus, whether he was following the action. And if you touch the camera without gloves on, your skin immediately glues to the metal. It freezes. You have to take a razor blade and slice away the skin to get it off.
Oh, God.
What?
Yeah.
Why can't you just go inside and blow on it? You don't take a fucking razor blade immediately. Come on.
Right.
Oh,
That's
God,
true. There's got to be like 8 other things you could do there. You don't have to do that. Yeah.
They got snowed in.
The lion sex and shit. It's Hollywood. It's dramatic.
Yeah.
I know. God, they're supposed to do some setting on this shooting on this glacier, but they got snowed in. They couldn't really get far away from the hotel, so they decided to bring Harrison Ford in at short notice to Norway to do some shots there. But then by the time Harrison came in, there were all these avalanches on the railroad line, and
how did they bring him in, John? Did they tell you? You see that?
They had these like 2 taxi rides, and then he made it to the snowplow with this guy who drove the snowplow. But the only way they could get the guy who drove the snowplow to bring him in was that they sent him over they sent over a big bottle of vodka. And so when Harrison and the snowplow guy got there, they were ridiculously drunk because they drank all the vodka.
They said they knew Harrison wouldn't get into the freaking snowplow
right.
without a bottle of alcohol. Yeah.
Oh, they said it was Harrison.
Yeah.
See, in the book, they say it was the driver that wanted the vodka. So, yeah.
Oh, no. In the commentary, he said it was Harrison. Kershner said it was
there's
Harrison.
no way the driver, because he's not risking his license for that.
Yeah.
That's never going to be him asking for vodka driving that thing. You kidding me? Big
Maybe
heavy
you're
rig
in,
like that?
you're in Norway. That's a different country.
No way, dude. No, heavy rig is no joke, dude. Nobody's fucking with that.
Yeah. But he did get drunk. I did read that they were both.
Of course he did, yeah.
Because
Because they're all inside. They're all inside. But he's not going to be the one putting that on. I'll tell you that much. Guaranteed. No way. Those guys.
So the writer Kasdan describes George's style here. Like I alluded to this earlier, where he says George didn't particularly like telling people what to do. He didn't like arguing with them. He didn't like the cajoling that is so much a part of directing. He didn't want to do that, and he had reinvented himself as this producer mastermind of these movies, which had started for me with the creation of Raiders. So because he worked with George on Raiders. I saw his dealings with Steven Spielberg and Irvin Kershner as very supportive, and yet trying to guide them into exactly what he wanted. That's what a great producer does. He guides everyone without making them feel controlled. And George is very good and funny and charming in the Georgian manner. He uses it. He has his own style. One of the other, I'm almost done here. So I got 2 more things. One is just, there's this, you might see this in the behind the scenes footage.
But you didn't talk about, keep on the topic of being in Norway with a shooting.
Oh God. Yeah. Tell me more. I know there's more on that. I was kind of skipping through that, but yeah.
So, I mean, it was negative 20 degrees out when there was a blizzard. I mean, the blizzard you talked about, it was negative 20 degrees. And what they did was they all sat inside of the hotel. They told the hotel managers, we're going to take over the entryway because no one's coming. They set up kind of a little station and opened up the front door to the hotel and set up the camera there and had put like blankets around it to like barrier it up and had all the crew behind the thing. And then they would send Luke, Mark Hamill out into the snow, and all the shots of him like wandering around in the snow and falling.
It was like right outside the hotel.
Right outside the hotel. And he did like one take and then he ran back inside for like a half an hour to just like warm up. And they're like, all right, you good?
Wow.
You good? All right, we're going for another take. Go back out there.
There was like numerous anecdotes of Luke Hamill nearly freezing at different points during this.
Which just makes it all so much, because I just assumed that they never shoot movies in real blizzards. I assumed it was
They do. They do. When we watch Arctic, if we get Ryan on, he'll talk all about
Ryan. That would be great. That would be fantastic.
I figured that was fake in that movie.
No, they'll talk all about how they ran out of their because they bought electric fucking jackets with the whole thing. They bought all the good stuff, they bought all the good shit, and it all failed. And they were just freezing their ass off trying to get this shoot done still going through the motions and still getting through it. And then they just decided they weren't going to buy that stuff again. So it was like it's a moment for them of just being like, it's totally real. Like you're in the middle of fucking Iceland or you're in the middle of fucking Norway. You're there and we got to get this done. Go.
They should have had George Lucas to give him advice because Kershner said one of the best pieces of advice he got from Lucas before they went to Norway was that Lucas said, whatever you do, no matter what, things are going to fail. And the hardest part of this job is figuring out what to do when they do. So just expect them to fail and then know that that's expected and do what you can.
That's why I think that
the director
Joe
says that
Joe was very successful is that they were the type of people that they got there by somehow failing. Like they failed so much.
Up.
So they
fail it up.
Like Ryan is so like in those situations when things are failing, Ryan's like, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do next. That's the best part. I think those are the amazing parts about directing that I understand. That's why when people talk about other things that are not those moments, I'm just like, I don't know if I trust you. That's amazing. That's awesome. They're just like in the middle of fucking Norway and they're freezing their ass off. Of course they are. They're getting the fucking shot.
They're getting the shots, dude. Looks great.
It's sick.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great trivia, guys.
I think that's all I got for the Norway stuff, John. You can keep going with that.
I'm out here almost. I mean, I don't want to forget to mention again the amount of detail and work and just iteration that was done on the walkers and everything, but for the walkers in particular, like they went back and forth, and then one of the modelers, John Berg, like put together the walkers that would so that when they moved, all these little pieces would move in sync, and it would look like they were real machines. Several people were mentioning how like amazing that was, like the models that he built.
I mean, if you look at the joints where the legs go under the body, they spin in the opposite direction as the legs move.
Right,
it's fucking great.
So it's pretty damn cool. The just that level of detail. I think I got one more just thing that was pretty funny. There's a video clip in the book too, and this is probably, I'm sure this is in the behind the scenes. So there's like there's like a featurette behind the scenes. Michael Purbut's the director. And he was talking to Mark Hamill and Han and Ford. And he's like, well, these are two different directors, Lucas, and Kershner. What's the difference? And Mark Hamill's like really thoughtful. And he's like, oh, well, Kershner's a lot more directive. And then the same question is asked of Ford. And Ford's like, Kershner's much taller. I love it. That's so cool.
That's a company man right there. That's a
so
company
funny.
man.
Yeah. But he acts like
he's my audience.
He's acting
taller.
like he's giving it real deep thought, it's a really good question.
Yeah.
I love it.
He's taller. Yeah, and it's just like, I know who my masters are. I'm not fucking biting those hands.
He doesn't want to
funny.
He didn't like working under Lucas, and he loved working under Kershner.
Hey,
so I'm sure he didn't
want
to, but Lucas
he's not going to stir out the pot.
Yeah,
he's not going to stir the pot. Yeah.
Smart response, right?
Yeah. Hey, he's Hollywood,
but also funny.
So Ivan Kershner said no initially. He had a pretty small career before this. They were all character dramas, small scale, never any fantasy or sci-fi or anything. But he was George Lucas's teacher in college. So, and he just made a movie.
I thought he like evaluated some of the films there. I didn't know he actually taught a class that Lucas was in.
He said he was they said it was his professor. In film school. Wow. So whether or not that was like a lab class where you judge projects or if you actually like make lectures, I don't know. But
right.
He was like his assigned superior when he was in film school. So yeah, that's kind of nice of him. He saw a recent film that he made and liked it and then thought it was like a good choice. They didn't go too deep into it, but he said no initially because he didn't think he could do it, but eventually decided it sounded like his agent convinced him. He's like, dude, you don't turn down the sequel to Star Wars. You don't do that.
Cha-ching.
Yeah. You don't, whether or not you think you can do it, you do that.
Hey, remember that vacation you wanted to take? You could take it for like 10 years. You know that, right? Like, we could do it.
One of the points there was, in terms of the risk, is that, well, look, if you do it and it flops, it's your fault. Because they're going to be like, look, Lucas directed the first one. This other guy comes in, directs the second one, and it's bad. Whose fault is it? It's going to be that guy's fault.
Yep.
So I think that was, that's a little bit scary.
But also, if you don't take it, what are you going to do?
I know.
What else are you going to do?
Two-person movies the rest of your life?
Yeah, it's the biggest job you take. Of course you take that job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
then
understand
you
the
quit
fear,
that job.
but
Oh, man,
I also understand the direction is you don't pass that. You don't pass
And
that.
it's a common theme in the book too. It's like the sheer enormity of what they're doing and the timelines they had. Everybody felt, very much under the gun.
Yeah, which made everyone work hard as shit. And so Kershner also, he wouldn't take backup shots, whatever you call them.
A reshoot, or what do you mean? What's about like a
number 2, like a secondary shot, just like what do they call it? Safety for safety. So you know you get the edit no matter what. Always gotta have a backup shot. You can't just
protection shots is what they call.
Yeah, so you can always make the edit. Like you don't want to have something that's just gonna fucking. So just because it was great acting doesn't mean you can work with it. Right.
Towards the beginning of the shoot on Hoth, they had this big scene where there was a bunch of stormtroopers running in to the base as it was like collapsing, and there was like the lights were flashing and stuff was falling out of the ceiling and stuff, and they were running in, and it was like a big scene, a big setup, and they shot it, and then they call a cut, and he's like, "All right, next shot," and everyone on set's like.
What?
Wait, you can't just do it once.
You don't want us to reset it, like we reset it up and take a protection shot, right? And he's like, "Oh, it looked good to me." And he's like, "No, that's not how you do it." And he's like, "What did you see wrong? Did anything look wrong to anybody here?"
They're like, "That's
anything
that's
wrong?
not our point. Our point is not that it's wrong. Our point is not that it's wrong. Our point is that we may not have a shot if we don't."
No, but he's like, "Dude, it's at least good enough because I didn't see anything wrong. If none of you saw anything wrong, we're gonna fucking move on."
It's called. Wow. It's like everything else in the world. You don't just leave yourself hanging with the one thing.
But he didn't do that. He didn't do that
because
at all
he's
in
nuts.
this movie. There are scenes where they pointed it out. There's a lot of fast cutting in this movie, which I think
crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
But
he's like,
crazy.
If I took time to do even 2 shots per shot in this movie, it would have taken forever.
Tough shit. That's how long it takes. Stop being a fucking asshole.
This movie was 180 days. 180 days shoot, TC.
I'm studio guy. I'd be like, you need to fucking shoot 2. I don't give a shit. We got the money for it. We do it. You do
I don't
2.
think we've covered a movie that has that long of a shoot.
You know what he could do instead if he doesn't want to fucking do the shoot is prepare for the next one. And there's no better thing than pre-production on anything. So prepare and we'll take care of the secondary shoot, you fuck. Jesus Christ. I'd be so annoyed.
Yeah.
So annoyed.
But what it did was everybody heard that and was like, all right, this is this guy's style. There's only going to be one shot per take. Fuck it up. I don't want to be the guy fucking it up. So like everybody worked super hard to get it right in the first take.
I'm always the guy that's like, every time that's what it is. Why would it be different any other time, people?
Yeah, because some people,
you know what I mean? Like
human nature, you get lazy every once in a while. You fuck up.
Right.
But like if you're constantly double and triple checking yourself because out of 100 people working on this one extremely elaborate take, you don't want to be the guy that gets called out in front of everyone for being the piece of shit.
But at least give people 2.
Yeah,
Jesus
no, I know. It's insane.
Christ.
There's nothing else like this.
Having
a single take shots
and they're lucky. They're lucky.
I don't think you can be lucky over and over again so consistently.
I think you can. I think you can. I think that you can get a window
for that.
You can get a window where you could get rehired again and not have all the same fucking perfect things in a row, and you're going to be failing constantly.
Well,
That's the difference.
It is weird because Irvin Kershner.
They got lucky because they had a great crew, they had a great production, they had people that really cared. That's not always going to be what it is, which is why you can't go 100%. With that.
Plus, you had not just him, but Lucas there backing everybody, like just the presence there and making
those elements will never come together again. They will never come together again, and that's the end of it. There is no such thing as being able to do that and getting away with it. Anybody listening to that, it's an inspiring thing.
Terrible idea.
God damn
terrible
it, fuck
fucking
that,
idea.
Dude.
Totally against any type of logic, but that's what he was doing, and that's what happens. And there are scenes they pointed out during the course of the movie.
It's amazing.
Where there are flaws. There are flaws throughout. But I have never noticed them. They pointed out they're all pretty small. Like there are pieces of like C-3PO falling off at one point. They're just like small little things that ruin a take if you're Stanley Kubrick. But who cares? Like this movie moves pretty fast. Cares. It's about the characters. Like you're not dissecting like, oh, where's, as in like we'll get to The Shining. Oh, that bean can has a Native American picture on the front and it's pointed towards the camera. So this movie must be about the fucking slaughter of Native Americans in America.
I don't like the way the wood splintered when he put his head through it. Doesn't seem right to me.
It's not the kind of movie it gets away with it. I think it's pretty fucking awesome.
He didn't do a lot.
Very good point, Denny. Very good point.
He did RoboCop 2, which was okay.
He did RoboCop 2, yeah. And Never Say Never Again.
I like RoboCop.
Yeah, RoboCop 1 is amazing, but he didn't do that one.
Good father. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Wasn't he Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? Or
no, that was a different guy.
Oh, that was a different guy. Okay,
yeah.
never mind.
That guy's the
That
guy
was a
who
good
was the
fucking movie.
assistant director in the first one, and I think he was like production assistant on this one.
Right. Okay,
and that guy we talked
okay.
about last time was in this movie. He was
No way.
Yeah, he had a 2-line part as one of the rebel captains or whatever during the Hoth
No
scene, telling
shit.
someone where to like go to a ship inside the airplane hangar.
That's funny. Interesting. Yeah. Small town.